Welcome to the Honest EP podcast. We're the podcast for health professionals and the wider community, looking to explore diversities in health, ask some hard questions, and have some honest conversations. My name is Archie. I'm an EP based on Sydney's All Beaches, and joining me as always is Allied Health Business Owner Andrew. Andrew, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm just happy that I'm talking into a microphone and squiggly lines are appearing on the screen because we tried this last Monday and it fucking didn't work.
Love technology.
And yeah, but here we are.
Here we
back.
are. Here we are.
And we're talking. And it's just the two of us for once.
It is.
God,
it's been a while.
We're such guest whores, aren't we? But no, you can only talk to me today.
Oh,
there's no one else. You were in charge of two things. Actually, there's three things. There's three things that go into our podcast. There is the equipment stuff, and then there's the beer, and then there's the topic. Those are kind of the three prongs. I normally do the equipment stuff, but you've done the other two things.
I have done the other two things. I got beer.
What beer did we get?
Well, the request came from last week where we were supposed to sit down to get a mid-strength beer, which I feel for me is okay, because today is the 1st of July. I did tell my wife that I was going to do dry July, so I feel like a mid-strength. It's like it kind of
dry July, just like mildly damp July, not flooding, but
yeah, I made it
a bit.
I made it 12 hours.
Moist July. Good.
So we have the Sydney Beer Co. mid-strength beer. Lager.
I assume it tastes like a lager. Not that I really... God, there's like no information on here. We can't get anything from it. You know how normally there's stuff that goes, and it's from this place and it's brewed with this blah. This one literally just says nothing.
Yeah, and neither does the box on it.
It's called Sydney Beer. And that's it.
And we can't tell you anything about it.
But it looks cool.
It does look good. It is preservative free, according to the can.
Is that rare?
I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those things that they're just saying, but everyone does it.
Yeah.
But they're saying it because they think it means something. Or in fact, it is unique. Anyway, that's what we're talking about. So it's worked.
Yeah. I mean, it tastes like a mid-strength beer, really. Which
it does.
We're being inclusive to all beers of all shapes and sizes.
Considering the last few beers that we've had, which have been dark and heavy, this is refreshingly not that.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you have Sarah Woodruff come on, she's like, all right, so I've been to some Victorian breweries and found the strongest possible thing from a brewery that's dying. Not today. And so the other prong is the topic, and you also came up with the topic today, which is what?
Well, it's sales. Sales in healthcare.
Yuck.
I know, right?
You're disgusting.
I know.
God,
I feel awful just saying that.
Filthy business owner. Squeeze. It's all about the money for you, isn't it?
It really is. This is why I'm here.
Where's your integrity? Where is your moral compass?
Oh, it's in the beer can. Is where it is.
Yeah. I imagine that's a... Well, I guess for you, you didn't work for someone else as an EP for a very long time, did you? You were in work cover for a little bit.
Work cover for a while.
For a while?
Wow. 2 years.
Oh, yeah, that's a while.
It's a while. And then the move to private practice was I was a contractor.
Okay.
So I suppose I kind of work for somebody else, but I also work for myself because it was just like, the percentage of what I generated, I got back as my
So wage. I guess very quickly, sales had to become a important part of your everyday stuff, right?
I remember doing my first initial consult, preparing for it, and physically writing down what I was going to say to try and describe what the fuck an exercise physiologist does, but then like try to have a bit of a script to follow when it came to what my recommendation for this person might be. So very archaic.
Well, I mean, I think generally that's still how you've got to do it with a lot of like new practitioners, because otherwise it's a bumbling mess of words and stuff, and the client in front of you goes, "What? What do you want me to do?"
So am I coming back? Or,
yeah,
or,
and a lot of the time they just, to avoid awkwardness, they just agree with you and pay on the way out, and then cancel for some unknown reason. Like, oh, no, I really want to come back. I just had this thing and I'm a bit sick, but I'll come back once this thing's solved itself. Yeah, okay. Oh, I don't have a car at the moment, so I can't see you.
How'd you get here?
Yeah, it's like, no. Yeah, they come in the first time and they go, so where's the car park? And then they tell you that they don't have a car afterwards on their way out. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess very early for you, it became a thing that, well, I mean, to a degree had to be on your priority list, because otherwise you'd go home with no money.
Well, that's true. But I also think it was a way for me to just help better articulate what my recommendations were for people, was to like write down what I was going to say so that it wasn't completely foreign the first time that I had to say those words coming out of my mouth. Because I wanted to help people, like we all do. And it's difficult to help people if you're not seeing them. And so it was about conveying my recommendations to them in a way that I and they potentially wanted to hear it.
So going from a contractor to buying in and eventually directing and owning Rebound, did your mindset or like ability to not convert's the wrong word, ability to do sales improve, I imagine?
Well, I hope so, because I don't think we would have got to where we are now without looking at different ways of doing things. But to be honest, I think that is just practice. And we'll probably say that a few times today, but like the process of writing down what you think you should say, saying those words to yourself and then saying them to a client, you work out fairly quickly what worked and what didn't and what you need to change so that you can better articulate yourself in the moment with future clients. So it was a practice over time. I imagine you went through something similar, right? Like sales is fairly foreign initially.
Absolutely. I never had like a sales job or a retail job where my job was to sell things or tell people the price of things. I like worked in a golf club where people ask for beer, and you just tell them how much it is and they pay. Like, but there's never like selling the beer. They're standing at the bar. They're buying a drink. Like the sale's already done by the time they got to me there. So I never had to do that there. And then I was working in aged care where everyone had already paid to be in the place. So there's no money involved either. So I never really had a job that was involved talking about money in a way where I had to sell something.
I think that's a really interesting point. It's one of the points that we wanted to talk about today, was the fact that by the time somebody's sitting down with you for an initial, they've already bought. They've already agreed to seeing you in whatever capacity you generally recommend, right? They're not sitting there trying to be sold to. They've already bought. And I think if, for new grads or for people learning how to do this, like that can just be a bit of a relief that like this person has an idea about what you do. Otherwise they wouldn't be there. and they wouldn't go to something unless they thought you could help them.
And I guess there's a couple steps that leads to them being there in that mindset already that helps a lot in the initial consult, which is when they are referred to you or they find out about you from some place or another. If it's a person, they are made aware, hey, this is a practitioner, like a private practitioner who I recommend you go and see. If they are coming on a service like Medicare, it helps if the doctors tell them that it's not gap-free, it's not bulk billed, so their expectations are already set that they will be out-of-pocket something. Then over the phone or online when they book, there is some form of information about, hey, you'll be paying and this is how much. Like over the phone, we quote them how much it's going to cost before we hang up on the phone. So they are aware when they come in that they are paying for the session and they've still turned up. So right there and then you've already set the expectations and you've kind of pre-framed that they've bought a service already. So then by the time they're sitting with you, they've already agreed to the sale at that point. I think before we get too deep into that, it's also important to know that, or to just mention that we're talking about sales because as private practice practitioners, we cannot help people without selling our services. So whatever skills or knowledge or stuff you have is kind of helpless if you can't have the person in front of you and help them, right?
Correct. And you are doing sales whether you think you're doing it or not. Like if you have sat and done a consult with somebody, or you brought them in for the first time, or you're sitting down for an initial and you're asking them to come back, that is sales, right? Doesn't matter what you call it. That is actually what it is. So it's should be, in a sense, like relieving to appreciate that this doesn't have to be a dirty, bad thing. We are just trying to help people and show them how we can do that.
I think it gets a bit of its bad name from when people think about it as a telemarketer. Like someone's calling you to try and sell you something that you don't want. That's not really a situation we're in with healthcare. It's like at no point are we trying to sell someone something that they don't want. If they don't want it, well, then they shouldn't really be there. And you should have identified that by talking to them or by them calling up or them looking at your services and going, I don't want this. Great. So don't come
Great.
there.
Yeah. No problem. Solved.
Perfect. Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy. That should be solved before it even starts then.
Yeah.
They're not the people we're talking about selling to. We can break it down, and we were watching a video recently that kind of breaks people who have the potential to buy your services down into like 3 categories. And you've got like the 10% that will buy no matter what you say, and they'll just say yes no matter what. And then you've got the 10% who will not buy no matter what you say. They'll come in and they'll go, no, I don't like it, I'm never coming back. And you go, oh, okay, right, well, doesn't sound like I even had a chance there anyway of helping you.
They're the car park people.
Yeah, they're the people in the car park without a car, yeah. they're the ones who, like, my doctor sent me, but I don't think I need to be here, people.
Correct.
In healthcare.
I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm here, but I don't think you can help me. And we asked them, it's like, well, how can I help you? And they go, I don't think you can do anything. It's like, okay.
You're probably right.
Yeah, it's probably not going to work.
Great.
Yeah. Here's some information. Here's my number or my email. Let me know, if you need some help in the future, kind of thing. Thanks for being on our emailing list. And then we're talking more about the 80% of people in the middle there who are undecided or deciding whether they are going to buy more. Or engage in your service is probably a better way to put it.
Correct.
Yeah, engage in your service. So those are the people we're really talking about when we're talking about sales and the way you talk about them with someone and being able to tell someone about your services and why they should come and see you. So without sales, you can't help people. And without sales as well in private practice, you can't really live because you don't make money.
Because that's a problem.
Yeah. And people say, well, I'm on a salary, so, it doesn't matter how many sales I make because I get paid anyway. What do you say to that?
So there's two sides to this, of course, right? There is the clinical appropriateness side, where if there is a clinical justification for an additional service, that should be taken into consideration. But then the other side is a commercial reality that and we've done this in previous podcasts, right? Where we understand that if you are on a salary, a certain percentage of the revenue that you generate should go back to you in your wages. And if you decide that you only need to see people once or twice and then you solve whatever challenge this person has, from a business perspective, that would mean that the amount of new clients or new inquiries you need to see would be significantly greater than somebody that would retain a client for a long period of time. Now, one is not better than the other. However, it would then come to a viability perspective of, well, can the business be able to provide me that number of new inquiries coming through to make these kind of ratios justifiable in the future? I'm skirting around the question. I know that.
Well, the answer is I thought you were going to give a really straight answer.
Do you want me to give a straight answer?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe that our role as EPs is to support people through their journey. And I think when it comes, and this is a quote from Alex Hormozy, our sales is about helping people to decide, right? We want them to have a conversation with us and either decide to engage with us or not. And either one of those is fine. But from a business's perspective, you're going to have to see clients. You're going to have to learn how to articulate how you can help them so that they want to keep coming.
I think you made a good point before as well about the amount of times a client sees you and the connection between the amount of times a client sees you and the amount of new clients you have. So to maintain a caseload or to use the word utilization, like most private practice practitioners should understand that what utilization is if you're on a salary. That's kind of not the break even, but that you'd have a break even point, then you'd have not an ideal, expected utilization kind of thing.
Yeah.
Utilization expectation.
You kind of have a few different benchmarks that people go through.
Sure. And the idea of hitting those utilization benchmarks basically allows you to bring home a certain amount back into your pocket by a very, very simple way to put it.
Yeah.
The higher utilization you have, then generally the more revenue you're bringing into the business. And if you are to make a percentage of the revenue that you bring into the business, well, then maybe that would qualify you within that business to make a higher wage. Very simple way to put it. So if you and your utilization is kind of made up of the amount of times you see a client plus or some calculation of that and the amount of new clients you see. So if you see each individual client less, then to maintain a caseload, you need to see more new clients, which is doable, which is totally fine. It's a very valid model of doing it. You just need to be seeing more new clients. For example, we had a women's health physio who would only see clients, I don't know, 2 to 4 times max. But she'd be seeing how many new clients a week?
12 to 15 new clients a week.
Right.
And so the caseload was sustainable and the benchmarks being met because of years of work building relationships in the community and knowing where her value was.
And then really good word of mouth and like actual good client outcomes as well with it. So very doable, but that's, you have to have a lot of new clients. So the other side of that calculation is that if you see clients more often, then to maintain a caseload, you need to see less new clients. A good example would be if you have a incredibly stable long-term NDIS caseload that doesn't change very much, well, then you don't need to see as many new clients to maintain a high utilization. Because the amount of times an NDIS client sees you might be once or twice a week, every week for 52 weeks. And then new plan, potentially the same, ongoing. So very, very high amount of times you see a client.
And that's an interesting point that you bring up there about NDIS clients. And I think the principle is true across third-party schemes where it seems to be easier to have a sales conversation with people when they're coming from a third-party scheme, whether it's NDIS, DVA, work cover, aged care. Like there seems to be a whole lot less internal dialogue about what is clinically justified for this person and presenting that to them when the framework of how you are going to get paid or how the transaction is going to happen has been predetermined, right? An NDIS client turns up and they say, I've got funding for 1 EP session per week for the next 52 weeks. Okay. When do you want to start? Okay, let's go. Or your work cover, and you go, okay, we got the first 8 sessions, and then we do the thing, and then we apply for more, and then we get more, right? There is a lot less personal thought processes going on about how do we justify that kind of ongoing care for third-party schemes versus when we have a private client that is paying out of their own pocket for our services. You've mentored a lot of EPs. How do you navigate this disparity?
I start with going, that sounds like a lot of money to you, doesn't it? And people go, yes. It's like, would you pay that much for this service? And people go, no. It's like, would you pay that much to go to a hairdresser? And it's like, yes. And it's like, because you can't do that. There you go. It's like, so you're putting your financial bias on what the value of this service is, but that's because you know all of the information as well. This person doesn't know this information. Like you wouldn't be able to sell a $500 haircut to a hairdresser.
Well, that's a good one. I like that.
But the amount of money that people spend on their hair is fucked. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
And I only found out recently that it's not just females who spend that much money on their hair. Because, they might go less often but spend more in a go. But some barbers are charging $50 to $60 and guys go every 2 to 4 weeks. I was like, what? That's so much money to spend on a barber. And you're worried about charging someone an amount of money so you can actually give them all this health information for this condition that they have and they don't know how to help. First off, remove your own financial bias. You don't know how valuable your information is to this person. That's up to them to decide how valuable your information is to them and you to convey what information that is. Okay, so start with removing your own financial bias because a lot of people do that. They go, I wouldn't spend that much money on it. Then it's about like kind of getting people to decide for themselves. So it's like your job is not to like put a weird stigma on the money. It's to tell them about what your recommendation is, what your best practice recommendation would be for this person in front of you, and then ask them if they want to do it. And if they say yes, and they ask how much it is, and you tell them how much it is, and they say yes, perfect. If they say, I'd love to do that, how much is it? And you tell them how much it is, they go, I can't afford to do that. It's like, okay, well, here's my next best recommendation, but this would require you to do this. And then they go, okay, that's doable for me. Most of the time, they'll do that. Very rarely will they go, well, that's also too much for me. It's like, okay, well, here's my third best recommendation, but it's going to require you to do this. All right, great. Then we do that. But if you don't, the thing that I run into the most is people not providing their best recommendation for a person who is sat in front of them and told them that, or we asked them, so have you tried stuff in the past? Yes. How did it go? Oh, I didn't do it. And it's like, so did it work? No, it didn't work. It's like, okay, why do you think it didn't work? Well, I didn't end up doing the stuff, so I don't think it made a difference. Like, oh, okay. So they've already told you that they don't do stuff themselves when people ask them to do it. So they've already identified that they probably need some more support from you in that situation. So you know that in your best recommendation, to actually get this person started, to get the ball rolling, they're probably going to need some supervision to do it because they don't have the internal motivation or the time at home to do it themselves or their own gym or whatever you're giving them to do. So they need your help to do it. And you know that. You know that everything you've seen, all the recommendations and best practice you've seen is for this person to do this stuff and supervise is going to help them do it faster. But you don't offer it because you're too worried about how much it costs. And so you end up asking this person to come back and see you once every 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 4 weeks. And you hope that they've done it. And you hope that they feel better when they come back. When you really have no idea if they're going to feel better or not. Whereas you could almost guarantee in this situation that if they came and saw you twice a week for those first 3 weeks, you know they're going to have hit those short-term milestones that you set together because you've got them doing the right amount of stuff. You've been able to check in with them, every few days and made them hit the right amount of load and volume and progression, and they'll feel so much better. Sometimes you talk to them and you go, when you've done stuff in the past, or you've had people help you in the past, have you done the stuff? And they go, yeah, I'm really good with my home stuff. Oh, perfect. Great. Yeah. Here's some stuff to do. Then you go and get them to do it. And then often with those people who are really good or they got their own gym, they're already doing some stuff and they didn't add some more stuff in for the reason they come to see you, you can ask them, great, so I'm going to send you off with this stuff. Normally I would check in with people in 2 to 4 weeks time to progress it. What works for you? And they'll tell you. And then if they come back and they haven't done it, it's like, oh, okay. Do you feel like we need to check in a little bit more often so that you actually do it? And I'll go, yes, great, cool. But if they do it, it's like, perfect. Well, I don't need to see that often. But you don't start off with that offering. You need to find out if they're actually going to do it first.
Correct. And I think you're talking a lot there about accountability, right? Because it would, and this is a bit of a, I don't know what you call it, but it's very easy to get on Google and find a program, right? People don't need a program. Most of the time, people need accountability and to know what they're doing is the right thing. So particularly in those early stages, but I think it's still applicable in the long term, our value is about helping people navigate the early challenges with building a new routine around exercise. Because some might not have done it before, some will have tried it before and not been successful, and others, something has come up in their life that they are now trying to navigate. And what value we provide is not in the fucking 3 sets of 10 sit to stands that we give people, but it's the fact that I went and saw Archie. He told me that this thing is important. He's checking in with me every couple of days to make sure he must really give a shit about me. Okay, I need that accountability initially until I'm able to manage this more long-term myself. And I think that accountability piece is often left off the table because it's more of a transactional relationship that we think somebody gives me dollars and I give them a program. And that is not our value.
No, we've talked about it all the time, that our value is not prescribing exercise. And if you think it is, then you'd need to be doing more with your clients.
Correct. Yeah.
So where do people... So that's kind of the basis of like how I would start teaching salespeople. Where would you recommend people start to learn and practice how to do these skills?
Oh.
Or what advice would you give to people who are struggling with sales in healthcare? Or people to buy into their...
Yeah. I've got a couple of ideas. So one would be go and see other healthcare providers. Go as a patient and go and see other healthcare providers and see what they do. And think about the way that they make you feel as they're wrapping up that initial consultation and how you felt kind of in the few days or week after. Because that feeling that you get from them can either be, yes, that's what I want my clients to feel. If I feel supported, I feel like I've got a clear plan, I feel like there's accountability. Or if it was, yeah, you've got a bit of a sore neck, so here's some exercises, I'll check in with you in a month's time. Do you feel a lack of support, a lack of accountability, a lack of direction? And being able to feel that in yourself can be a trigger to go, well, that's not what I want my clients to feel. I didn't get into this thing to like make my clients feel unsupported. So I'm going to change my behavior based on what has happened to me personally. And I don't think that is just true for allied health. I think you could do that across anything, right? The analogy that is often brought up when we talk about sales is this like, oh, you're a sleazy car salesman, right? You're trying to get me to buy something that I don't want to buy and it's gross and you've got greasy hair or whatever. But the flip side of that is I've bought cars and I've really enjoyed the process.
Really?
I have. The last one that I bought was like, I would go back there and I would speak to that guy again. I would. Because he got to know my family and he had a bit of a chat. Now, is that a charade? I don't know. But the way that that individual made me feel, and I'm sure this is not a unique experience, where you walk out of something with a positive experience, comes to the intention of the person that's selling it to you, right? Am I trying to go into this relationship trying to deceive you? Or am I just trying to fit what I've got to help you live the life or have the goals that you want to have?
Well, humans can sense deception. Like, I feel like you could sense deception.
Absolutely, you can.
Have you been to car salesmen or shops or places where you have sensed deception?
Oh, of course. Of course. And you're right, you can sense it and you're like, well, I'm not going back there anytime soon. And when you can put your finger on why that was the case, you can then go, well, if that's what I don't want, what do I want? What is the person that I want to be? How do I want people to feel after walking away from their first session with me? And what are the behaviors that I should do that will help them feel that way? Because it's a feeling, right?
Yeah.
The feeling of, do I trust this person? Would I go back and see them again? Would I pay them money? It's based on a feeling, because EPs, like we are not like helping people in that first session. Like it takes a while for the benefits of exercise to kick in. Why they come back is because they trust us. So what are the behaviors that we could do so that people walk away feeling like, oh, I trust this person?
What would you start with in terms of from the very beginning of an initial consultation to develop trust with a new person?
I think it's difficult to answer that question because people are different, right? Some people like to associate trust with different things. I'll try and make people feel relaxed. I'll try and we as part of our initial intake forms, we do empathy mapping. So we get an understanding about, is this person feeling nervous or excited or anxious about their interaction with us? Based on where that sits, if somebody is feeling nervous, I'll try and I'll go slow. I will let them talk lots. I will just ask lots of questions. If somebody's feeling excited and ready to go, I'd be like, we'll move quickly and we'll probably get them moving in their assessment. So I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all answer
I find
to that.
With those questions, it's like a sliding scale of 1 to 5. But the hardest ones are often the ones where people write neutral. Where that's like, I'm nervous to start, and they'll write neutral. And they'll write, I'm raring and excited to go. And they'll just write neutral. And then I can't remember what the other one is.
I'm excited and ready to go.
Yeah. And if they write neutral for everything, it's like, all right, they've just got zero emotions, zero feelings at all towards what we're going to do. It's like, okay, here we go. Let's see if I can elicit some sort of emotion towards they're nervous or excited because, or fearful or, I don't know, sad, frustrated, anything. Anything at all.
Give me an emotion.
Give me an emotion because it's really hard to work with someone who has zero emotions.
Right.
Because I don't know what I'm working with. So okay. So finding out how the people are feeling when they're arriving would make a difference to build trust. Yeah. I think generally being able to adapt to the person, right, is what you're saying there. Because you can't be the same practitioner with every single person in front of you.
That's a skill. That's for some people that is difficult. Some people it's a bit easier. But to understand that different people need different things from you, and the way that you show up needs or can be adjusted. Is a bit of a level up when it comes to building trust with people.
I think it's so important though that if a little old lady comes in, you need to be able to put on a good little old lady, not voice, but
I was just imagining your little old lady voice then. Yeah, it was good.
Well, having a demeanor that like a little old lady would like, which might be soft, a little higher pitch and down on their level and, very caring, very soft, that kind of thing with them. And then if a 50-year-old, white collar bloke comes in as well, you're not going to be really soft and because they're going to go, what are you doing? You got to be able to do both, right?
Correct.
And everything in between. And then young people, you got to relate to them. If you've got a younger bloke who's a tradie coming in and talking about his fuck shoulder, probably don't want to be talking about a little sensitive and aggravated shoulder here. It's like, no, just talk about their fuck shoulder. It's probably going to be
use their language, right?
Use their language. They're saying.
Yeah.
So building trust from the start is going to help in this process.
Yep.
I would say.
You should hopefully have a process that captures why people are coming to see you, right? And certainly with me, and I imagine with you and with pretty much everybody else, there will be some times where you read that thing and like, what the fuck is that? I have no idea what that thing is, but I'm going to get on Google and I'm going to work out what the fuck it is and what would be the best course of action for this person so that when it comes to the last 5 minutes where we are talking about next steps, in my mind, I have what best practice looks like for this condition.
Yeah, you got to have that. If you don't know what best practice looks like for this condition, well, we're in trouble.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So you should know that. And that should anchor you, right? That should be option one. What is the if money was not an option,
not an issue,
what would it look like? I remember a client that I saw years and years ago. He came in, big guy, in a bigger body.
We've talked about it before. Yeah, go on.
And all right, well, I'll skip to the. I'll give it the.
Yeah.
But like, he came in and he was like, he wanted to lose some weight. He had some metabolic issues going on, and I was shitting myself because I knew what best practice was. I'm like, this guy needs to exercise every day of the week because it's nothing's going to be as impactful for this person. And I was shitting myself saying that. So I didn't say that. What I said was you should come in 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday or whatever. And he's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah. Like, well, I think I should come in every day. I'm like, oh, really? You want to see me 6 days a week? Like, yes. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know how to deal with that information. And for me, like, that would have been fucking 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
But like, that still sticks in my brain as like, this guy came in with a clear understanding of what he needed. I undershot that, and he actually sold me up.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was just a light switch moment where it's like, you know what? Moving forward, whatever the person is, whatever their background is, I'm just going to give what is the recommendation according to evidence.
Yeah.
And I will work down from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, for this guy, it's like, we need to be working towards 300 minutes a week of exercise.
Yeah.
How much support do you need in doing that?
And apparently the answer to that question, which I didn't ask at the time, was 100%. I will not do this by myself. I want somebody to help me do it with me. Like, I didn't know that was a thing.
Because immediately you were like, well, I probably can't ask this guy to spend more than 3 times a week sessions, right?
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, 'cause, that's the most it ever offer. So I guess I'll go to the top of the range, which is 3 times a week, and work back from there. And he's gone, what? That's it. When we know that if his main goal was weight loss, he needs to be moving more than 3 times a week.
Correct.
But the financial bias that you had there didn't even allow you to even tell him what the recommendations were.
Correct. Yep.
Very interesting.
And so that enabled me to again, I'm not, in future cases, I'm not overselling. I'm just going with option 1 is what is the best option that I could give to people, irrespective of price tag. And if that is too much, that's fine. I have got like secondary and further options.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially if you've already found out, if I give you things to do at home, you're going to do them. And he said no. It's like, all right. Well,
okay then.
That leaves us with one choice.
Correct. Yeah.
You don't really have anywhere to go from there. So that's a good change of way to think about it. It's like not thinking about, okay, what is the most amount of money that I can ask or I would ask for from a person? It's like, no, what is the best recommendation I can provide this person in front of me who's presented with these needs? And then let's go from there. And let's talk about the plan, about what the plan would be, the management plan for it. And then once we've talked about that, then we can talk about the money side of things. Some people don't even ask. And then you've talked about the plan and they know how much it costs and they haven't even asked you. It's like, wait, so how much will that be a week? They don't even bring it up. Because they're like, yeah, let's do it. And often it's just my little financial bias brain that goes, oh, you don't, you're gonna question that? But once again, that's just my little financial bias brain. And everybody's got their little financial bias brain because they've got it with everything. Andrew, you've good example is you've bought RM Williams before.
Why are you bringing this up now?
Well, I bought RM Williams, so that's fine. But before you went into the store, did you know how much they cost?
Ballpark, yes.
Okay.
Ballpark. What I thought they were was less than what they actually were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So when the lady rung it up,
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a bit more than I expected it.
But at that point, you'd already decided that you were going to do it, right?
I'd decided before I walked into the shop.
Yeah, exactly. Think about that, people. How many people have come into your clinic and already decided before they walked in that they're going to do whatever you ask them to do? And it's probably more than what we think. More people than what we think come in to a healthcare clinic needing help. That's why they're here. And they've already decided that they will do what we ask of them to get better. Yet we already go that like, oh no, we got to start from zero and we've got to sell them from scratch. But like the fact that they are at your door is not necessarily them trying. They're not trying it out. They've decided on you as their source of help, and they're going to do it.
And I think to the point that you started with, like that 10% of the bell curve that has already made the decision because they've made the decision in their mind that I need this help and this person can help me. The 80%, they just want to see the plan.
Yeah.
They want to see how this is going to work.
And how it's going to address the problems that they have.
Correct.
And if you have identified with them that like, so these are the problems you're having and these are the things that you just can't seem to fix. Well, fix, you use whatever word you want. You can't seem to solve these problems that you're having and you've had these problems for this long and you've tried these things in the past and you still can't solve these problems. So here we are. Here's what the best practice is for solving these problems. Would you like to do it? And if you've identified those problems and you've shown them that this can help them, then it's just like a yes or no problem for them. I have two topics I want to go into now. One of them is dealing with or when people object to what you talk about. And the other one that I want to talk about after is when sales goes too far and people oversell. Which one would you like to start with?
Let's go oversell because that's an easy one.
Okay. All right. So in your experience, in healthcare or fitness or whatever, have you come across situations where people have started to oversell?
In what do you mean oversell? Do you mean like one-to-one services? Are you talking about products or?
Yeah, I feel like in healthcare I've seen it with a couple of things where the program that people are selling, they've already decided they're going to try and sell you that before the person walks in.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And look, again, like I'll freely admit that there was a period in my functional movement screen career
Totally.
where I was trying to put people in a box and then sell them the solution to that. Obviously, I learned, but was that overselling? Oh, maybe.
Only to some people.
Right. Some people, and here's the interesting thing, right? Because some people got better. Some people didn't. So it's hard to put was that good or bad and put it in a neat box. It's a bit hard to do. Do people oversell? Sure. When you have a very fixed, rigid, like this is what everybody does, so you're going to do the same thing, or I will not work with you unless you do this exact thing, which you do see in many professions. That I need to see you 3 times a week. If you're not going to commit to that, then you're not committing to your health, and I can't help you. I think that's a very limiting way of working with people.
Guilt.
Correct.
Yeah.
People don't need more guilt.
No.
That is making a decision based on your finances and trying to fill your books, which may or may not be in the best interest in the individual. So I think that is overselling, and that is not great. You need to create an individualized program for the person that is sitting opposite you based on what good evidence-based practice for that condition is.
For example, you might have someone who comes in and they already go to the gym a bunch, and all you need to do with them is really just like progress their weights a little bit, or add a little bit of progression in there every 2 weeks or something, and you go, no, you need to see me 3 times a week, and we need to do that together, because what you're doing is wrong. It's like, whoa, okay, hold up. They're probably, doing most of the right stuff. You just need to actually just change the numbers that they're doing a tiny bit, and that'll be fine. It's like, let's not, overdo it here. You haven't identified what this person needs. You just identified like what you need.
What you need.
Exactly.
Yep. Conversely, people undersell, right?
That's the whole conversation. That's why we're having this conversation, right?
This is just as bad.
Most healthcare practitioners don't go into healthcare because they want to make money. Let's go.
Yeah.
Or they don't because they want to sell things, because they're a salesman. You don't generally go into healthcare because you're a salesperson. You go into healthcare because you want to help people. And most people who want to help people also care so much about people that they're worried about like taking anything away from them. So they don't want to take money away from people. So it's normally erring on that side rather than the other side, I would say, in healthcare. But good for people to have an idea of like, hey, if you are trying to sell the same program to everyone that walks through your door, I'd consider what you're doing. I'd have a think about it.
Good.
And it's like, are you actually doing what's best practice here? Yep. That's helpful.
I agree.
When you think about dealing with objections or people bring up problems, so I'm going to bring an example to you. Someone comes in and they see you, and they then at the end of the consult, you go, great, that was this much, and this is how much it's going to be going forward, and they already, like what you're doing and like the plan, and they go, that's well too much. You're overcharging me. What do you? What do you do in that situation?
Have you ever had that situation? I think this happens more in our minds than it does in reality.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, well let's role play it. You get to go.
Yeah.
You get to go. Then I get to go.
No.
How about that? You get to go. No. You get to go. You get to go. Then I get to go. So you're the practitioner. I go, Andrew, that's well too much for your service. I'm not. Do you really think it's worth that?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Well, then I point to the big wall of before and after photos that I've got behind me, and I'm like, look at all of the thousands of people that I've helped.
Look at all these fake tans and these beautiful.
Do you remember Jerry? Jerry's on there. He was a good guy. The subway guy.
I helped this person.
Look at him
lose half their body weight.
What would be the cost of staying the same?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have no good answer to that question. That's a good question. Well done.
Look,
Now you win.
To answer that question directly is a lose-lose. Like it's hard to because you're being put in a corner of like either having to justify your value, which they can then compare to other people, or justifying why you charge what you do, which again is just a lose-lose situation. Because I could say, oh, it's the clinic's fault. Like they made me, they set the prices, not me, or it's the director's fault. He sets the price, not me. Or, well, in order for me to get paid what I get paid, I have to charge a certain amount, and that means this. And like, it's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, why are you charging me this amount? I suppose the direct answer, and I've had a beer and a half, so I can say this now, but like, this is what we charge. This is where we think we can add the most value.
Yeah. I love the idea of putting it back on them, of going, it's like, well, what amount of value would you want to see to pay that kind of thing? And then they'll say some things of, oh, well, I want more support.
Great. What does more support look like?
Yeah. I want you to check in with me.
Great. How often would you want me to check in with you?
I don't know, every couple days.
Great. Would Monday, Wednesday, and Friday suit?
Yeah, that's great.
Excellent. What else?
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, good.
Right, because people have got these beliefs or these preconceptions in their head, but you're trying to get them to articulate what that means to them specifically, and then solve that problem for them.
So rather than you trying to justify the price, just ask them what value they would want to see at that price. Like, what should be included? And believe it or not, you probably offer all those things. They just haven't asked you, and you haven't had the chance to talk about it because you didn't want to talk with them for 20 minutes about all the things you do for them. It's like, well, I'll program for you and I'll update your program, and you can contact me via the phone or the email, and I'll check in with you on these dates, and I'll go away and do the research, and you have access to my beautiful gym equipment, and I'll make sure that it's clean when you come in. All of this stuff, I'll make sure there's a car park for you. You can call the reception and they will answer when you call. You will get appointment reminders. Blah, 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 blah. You get to swipe your card and this lovely rebate comes back onto it. All of these things that you haven't brought up because it's pointless to bring up. But when they go, well, what value are you providing? It's like, well, what value would you like to see? What would you like to see? Then you can actually talk about it. So back on the RMs, Andrew.
Yeah.
If well, now that you are an RM converted person, and I'll be you in this situation, and they go, well, that's $650.
Holy dooly! What are you talking about?
No, I'm Andrew. Oh, sorry, you're them. Yeah, and you say, oh, you put the thing there at $650. I go, oh my goodness. Oh, how could you charge me that much?
There are Williams.
Yeah, but like, what do they do for me?
You don't buy RM Williams because of the price.
Ah, okay.
You buy them because of what it means to you.
Oh, goodness me. And then you could always ask me, it's like, well, what do you want them to do? It's like, I want them to last forever.
Great. They do.
Well, but I want the leather to be the best quality. I don't know.
It is the best quality. Name a better quality leather.
Fuck you.
Damn it!
All right, fine, I'll have two.
Yeah.
Give me two.
I'll take a black one.
Brown and a black one. Yeah. They are good, though.
The point about understanding what value means to people is a really good point. Because some places charge a reasonable amount for the services that we provide, and you're right, like it can often get lost of all of the things that we do to help people. And like you said, we're not going to sit there and recount every bit that we do. But if people are balking at the price, it's like, well, that is the opportunity to go, well, what would it cost to stay the same? And what would it cost for you to get the support, or what does it look like for you to get the support that you need? And then we can talk to their specific challenges.
Perfect. So you got to identify like what all their problems are.
And if it hasn't worked before, why didn't it work before?
Yeah. So you actually got to cover all of these things before you get to the part where you talk about money. Because if you haven't identified all of the reasons that this person should invest in your service, and the reason that it's your service and not nothing, and your service versus some other service, then of course they're not gonna invest in your service. They've got to understand, and you've got to understand what helps them. So basically, there's more questions you should ask in the initial and in your follow up before you talk about money. And money should just be the last thing that happens.
Correct, because you touched on it before about management plans. A management plan should be how you are going to help support this person to achieve what they want to achieve by interacting with you, right? And that should not be a template like that. There is not a one size fits all approach to that. It needs to be tailored.
You need to talk through it with them and answer their questions and make sure they understand everything you've gone through and had an opportunity to question things and change things. And once you get there and they go, wow, this is great, let's do it. And you go, cool, let's do it. And that's the end. Just like that.
Just like that.
That's the end.
I've got one question for you, which is from a new grad mindset around having these conversations, and when it gets to the last few minutes of a conversation and we're making our way towards the FBOSS machine and, oh God, it's that time again. What are some tips that you've got around having those, like the transaction conversation? Like, I feel like I'm an imposter. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Like, how can I change that?
So when you get to the desk where you're paying, talk the person exactly through the process you're going to do before you do it. And make it sound so simple and so easy for them. If you haven't mentioned how much it is and then you put the machine in front of them to pay, then you're just like waiting for a response. But you should go in there and have a clear explanation. So for example, if someone comes in on an EPC and we go, with the Medicare referral, we'd take the full charge first, and then with your Medicare card, we can swipe it and we can process the rebate of $56 straight back onto your card. Is that all good? It's like, yeah, great, awesome, perfect. So here's the charge for today. Tap, great. All right, and let's just swipe your Medicare card and put the money back on. And you've already talked through it and it's already fine. Otherwise, you go, it's like, great, so it's $100 for today, or $100 for today, $120 for today. Do you have any private health? But don't go in there and first ask, so do you have any private health? Because if they say no, then you go, oh, so that's going to cost you $120 then.
Oh, I'm really sorry.
Yeah. So you've left, now you're already on the back foot. But if you go, so for today, that's $120. Do you have any private health?
Nice. Rebooking? Same thing?
Rebooking, I'm doing it before I'm at the front desk. Rebooking should be part of the last 5 minutes of the consult. And you're already talking about what you went through during that session. So saying, are we an initial or not an initial here? No, we're not an initial because we've already done the management plan stuff. So we're going to follow up and we're talking about rebooking the next session. So last 5 minutes of consult, we're either still moving or we're finishing moving, whatever. But we're talking. I'm like, great. So here's all the stuff we covered today. Is that everything that you wanted to get through? Yep, great, awesome. Is there any other questions you had for me before we finish up? No, yes, whatever, great. Glad I left myself 5 minutes if they do. Perfect, cool. Okay, cool. So let's just talk about when we're going to see each other next, because you got to go and do this stuff, and then we've got to come in and check in on it. And let's just do it. Great. Let's book in that session now while we're still in the gym or we're still in the room or whatever. Then we go.
And you book that in?
Yes.
You're not asking somebody else to book that in for you?
You do it.
Why?
Because it's your relationship with the person. You should be doing it. The service is you. Yeah? Don't remove yourself from that process. Have the balls to just be there and do the conversation yourself. Now, there's some clinics where maybe that doesn't work, or the process doesn't work like that. And that's fine. Great. Amazing if you have really well-trained front desk staff who can do that conversation for you. But I don't feel like that should be front desk staff's job if you have front desk staff.
I agree. 100%.
And also, don't get into the habit of doing it, because you may end up working not at a place with front desk staff and you have to do it yourself. And then you've got the rebooking skills of a new grad.
Correct.
And now you stitch yourself up, because you could have 6 years experience, but you've only worked in a place where people have rebooked and sold for you. And then it's like, oh no, we don't have front desk here. No admin. And you're like, oh, what? I have to tell people to come back myself? It's like, yeah. It's like, fuck.
Shit.
So just do it yourself.
Good.
Do it yourself.
What about if I feel like an imposter? I feel like this is just the man or woman saying, I have to say these scripts in order to do these things, and I feel like that's not me. What's your advice to those people?
That's not me. What is you? be this person.
Okay.
That's not you. So what do you feel like you is then?
I don't know.
Well, why are you in this job?
Because I like helping people.
Okay. You like helping people. And do you feel like what you do can help people?
Yeah.
Great. So how do you help people?
By all those things we just said.
Yeah, great. Awesome. So you need to see them to help them. That's what you're saying. Okay. All right. So how are you going to see them?
I have to rebook them.
Yeah, you have to rebook them. Okay. All right. So that's all we're talking about. It's like you need to help people because that's what you love to do, and that's what these people want from you, is for you to help them. Sales is just a middleman. Like, it's not some dirty other thing. It's literally just the middleman between you helping people and them. That's all it is.
I like that. I think this concept of feeling like words are being put in my mouth or feeling like an imposter can often come from the fact that you haven't done it enough times to work out what is your way of doing these things.
Yeah.
And, businesses or companies or people will come up with, here is the script to follow, right? And they're doing that to try and make it easier for you in those situations to have the words to use. And you will feel like an imposter until you've done it enough times to have your own words to say. Because I think that's what we learn by saying those rebooking words, or by saying the management plan, or by saying the, processing through the terminal. You can't get that experience by watching a video or reading a thing. You have to do it. And until you've done it fucking 100 times, you are not going to work out what your way of doing it is. And that feeling of being an imposter will stay until that happens. And I think that's okay. You don't have to constantly avoid feelings of, oh, this makes me feel a little bit weird, or, oh, geez, Archie said I'm putting my financial bias on this person. Like, you just got to fucking do it enough times to make it feel normal. And find your way of doing it.
And guess what? If they say no, okay.
Try again.
Yeah. Next, on to the next. Like, what you don't want is to have them said no, or them agreed to something that is not actually going to help them. That's the worst part of this. If you undersell and then you give them something that is good with your financial bias and they go, oh, wow, that's very affordable, and it doesn't help. Like, oh, no. That's worse than them saying no in the first place. If they've actually committed to what you said was your best plan for them and it hasn't helped because you undersold yourself. Undersold yourself. Oh, dear. Don't do that.
And this might be where we need to wrap up, but one of the things the mindsets that I had early on was when people came and saw me, that I was the last resort, right? I've been here, I've been there, none of it worked. And so now I'm here because somebody told me I should come here. And what I hated the concept of was somebody saying EP didn't work. Like, I went and saw Andrew and that didn't work. I'm like, something in me was like, that, it's exercise. Like, how the fuck does it not work? Right? And it's to your point, like, I have underprescribed. I have given somebody something that I know wasn't going to meet the mark on them. And so I've set us all up for failure.
Don't devalue EP.
Don't devalue
Don't
EP.
go out there and devalue your profession.
Don't be the person that fucking, I tried it and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Don't be that person because there's enough of those people in other professions.
Yeah. Likewise, in your other professions, don't be the physio. Don't be the chiro who people went to and said, I tried it, but it didn't work because you underdid your service. Don't do it. Whatever you're selling, whatever you're prescribing, offer the best prescription, the best therapy, because then if people go, it didn't work, they know that it was because they didn't do the best thing. Okay. Well, it's not your fault then. But if you've underdone it, that is your fault. If you haven't offered them the thing that you think is going to help best, and then they're not helped, that's your fault.
Correct.
Great.
Good rant.
Okay. That'll do us, probably.
How's your mid-strength beer go?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, would I feel that much different if I'd had 2 8% double black IPAs? I don't know. Probably be slow in my words. All right, that'll do. Goodbye.